All right, hello everybody. Welcome to this series of videos, which will be probably just 2 or 3, on making a CN Tower. The CN Tower, a wonderful landmark of architecture located in Toronto, Canada. And so I have made this kind of very simple model of the CN Tower. It kind of looks like a toy you'd buy in a store or something like that, but it's reasonably accurate in terms of the proportions and stuff of the real CN Tower. So first thing we should always do when we're doing a 3D model is analyze the shapes. What are the shapes that comprise the actual object? So we start to think about how we're going to make it. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's break it down here. First, the most obvious thing is kind of looks like a big pin. The central section is essentially a hexagon going from here till here. And it's easy to see the hexagonal shape when you look at sort of the bottom part here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the back. Now, obviously, it's beveled and stuff, but the basic shape of this tower is a hexagon. And 3 of the sides have been pulled out, and 3 of the sides are sort of recessed, where these tracks are. So we have this very long, elongated hexagonal prism that goes until about here. On this hexagonal shape, we also have these little boxes that are sort of parts of the tower. In the real CN Tower, we have lots of other stuff here, the satellite dishes, which we won't have. It'll be very simple. So on the hexagon, we also have these little shapes that are extruded. Now, of course, we have this main section, which is the main view tower, the main observatory tower. And it is kind of like a big hamburger, sort of a series of cylinders. A big one, then this one is kind of growing up and getting larger, and then there's a central one here to get smaller again, another secondary cylinder, and then we go back to the base part. So this is all going to be extruded and moved around from one cylinder. On the bottom of this observatory, we have this sort of shape here, which is sort of like a mesh or sort of a fan shape, which supports the tower and I think allows it to go up and down. Then we also have, now we kind of continue to go up, we have the second observatory, the small section, which is also a cylinder and has some little windows in it. And then out of that is another cylinder, which is now no longer hexagonal shaped, it's just kind of smooth cylinder going up. So we have like a bunch of cylindrical sections, this, that, and then finally a little tippy point thing. So that's the basic shapes of the CN Tower. At the very bottom, I just made a cylindrical base, so it would kind of stand up if you put it on a table. In the real CN Tower, there's sort of like there's a bunch of stores and stuff on the bottom at ground level. So we're just going to make a cylinder. Okay, so let's get out of this view and let's go to Blender. And here we have our Blender scene. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of the camera and the light because we don't need them. So now we have nothing in our Blender scene. The first thing we need to do is bring in a reference image so that we can basically overlay that on top of the model that we're making. Kind of like a blueprint. So to do that, I'm going to do Shift A, and I'm going to add Image Reference. And I have to pick the image that I want. Well, in this case, the image is on my hard drive, but it's going to be available for download in Google Classroom for those in my class. Okay. So now I just brought this image in. It's an image of my model, actually, because that was the clearest way I could find a reference image. So first of all, it's kind of small. I'm just going to scale it up by pressing S. Scale it. It's kind of arbitrary size. I don't know. I don't know why I just did D. Sorry about the D. There's no D. Scale it up. Scale it up. Okay. Now, let's move this up a little bit because I want to have the bottom of this gray part aligned with the x-axis. And actually aligned with this cursor. So I'll select it up, GZ, move it up like that. And then I want to move this to the side so it's really lined up. So I'm going to go GX, and move it like right in the middle. So it's pretty much centered. And now when I do my model, since my model will be centered, it'll align up with this picture. Now I'm going to show you a couple of cool things about the reference images. First of all, it's now called empty. I'm just going to rename it ref. If I click on this red picture thing, I get the kind of different options for this image. The most useful option for us is this, opacity. This allows us to make it opaque or transparent, or obviously anywhere in between. Now, since the model is going to be here, I'm going to actually move this plane forward on the y-axis, GY. So it'll be in front of our model. And I'll keep it at sort of like a half opaque, so you can kind of still, you're going to still be able to see the model through it. So, and we only have this one image because it's a pretty simple shape and it's symmetrical everywhere. So this is probably good enough. Okay, now that we've done that, I'll just Control A, set the, whoa, I don't want to do that. Sorry, don't do that. Don't do that for the reference image. I guess it's my habit. All right, now we have a reference image. Let's make the central base here. And like I said, I'm going to make basically a hexagonal shape. Shift A, add mesh, and go to, interestingly enough, a circle. And you'll end up with options for a circle. And normally, circles are 32 vertices. But we want to make this a hexagon. So we're going to change that to 6 vertices. And if we go to the top view by pressing 7, you see it's a hexagon. One thing, though, we want this part of the hexagon, this face, to face forward. So I actually have to select this and just rotate it 30 degrees. Doesn't really matter which direction. And now this flat part is facing us, which is what we wanted. And I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to go to the view here. And you see that it's kind of too large. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scale it. And what I want to do is scale it so it's quite a bit smaller. And I really want this front plane to sort of be lined up with these windows. And you're going to see that like that, it's probably okay. And we're going to adjust it in a second. Okay, first of all, Control A, set all those transformations so we don't have to worry about it later. Go into edit mode. And what I want to do is this, and this, I want to scale them down because those are where the tracks are. And they should be a little bit smaller than the faces that are pulled out. So I'm just going to press S and scale them in. Oh, no, sorry. Whoops. Let's check. Let's change something. It is now the cursor, or the pivot point, is set on median point, which means it's going to pull everything to the center. I don't want that. I want it to be on individual origins, so each of these shrink, but these don't. Scale S. Now it's going to work the way I want it to. See, these are now smaller than this. Okay. So that's pretty good because now that's about the size that we wanted to, about these windows. Maybe I'll scale it a little bit up, S, a little bit bigger than that. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll be able to adjust it later. All right, now, of course, it looks too small for now, but we're going to extrude these faces after, so don't worry about it. All right, zoom out a little bit. A, select everything, E, Z, and extrude this whole thing up. And let's just keep going. GZ. Don't press extrude again, just GZ, and go till about halfway through the cylinder thing. Somewhere like that. Okay, now the size is pretty good because these two lines are lined up with the edges of that. They're a little bit bigger than those rectangles, which is fine. That's what we wanted. Okay, step 1 is done. Now, we have to extrude out these 3 sides to pull them out to make that sort of weird shape. So once we've selected these 2 sides in the back, we're going to go to Alt-E, extrude faces along normals. And we're just going to pull like that. And let's go see. Now we can look at the bottom. Of course, the top's much too big, but we'll fix that after. We can look at the bottom and see if that's about the right size. Okay, so let's say it's not the right size, because normally it's pretty difficult to just get that exactly perfect. How do we control it? Let's say that I wanted it to be larger, pulled out more. If I just press scale right now, it's going to scale it like that. It's not really going to be what we want. To actually, what I want to be able to do is to pull these in or out so I can just make them large enough. So the trick for that is, since none of those faces really line up with any axis, we could actually move them along their normal axis. Remember that a normal in 3D is the perpendicular direction of the face. So that's the face, the normal will be going that way. And in this one, the normal will be going that way. So if we move them along their normals, they'd all be moving in the proper direction. So now that it's set to normal, go G, Z. And now you're able to pull them in and out exactly how you wanted to, and it'll work perfectly. It's a very useful thing to be able to do. So I'm just going to move that until, see, I see that's my outline in the background. Move it until about it, like it matches the background. Okay, so that's good. So now that part's done, and now we need to taper the top, because the top of the CN Tower, it gets progressively thinner. A couple things we're going to do. I switch to face mode. I'm going to delete these top faces. I don't want them. They're just going to cause trouble. So delete those faces. Now, another interesting trick we're going to do. We're going to click the top edge of those 3 sections there. And I want to scale just these in, because you're going to see the middle part doesn't get any smaller. It's these that get smaller. To do this, though, I have to switch this back to, let's say, global, and I have to switch the pivot point to, instead of individual origins, to the median point, which essentially means the point between all of these, like would be somewhere right in the middle. Now, if I press scale, it'll pull them towards that central point. Scale, central point, like that. And if I go to the front view, I basically, actually, there's something I did wrong here. Let me go back here. Let me select this entire edge. And I want to pull it down first. GZ. I want to pull this down to exactly here, the dark part on the picture. Oh, that wasn't perfect. GZ. There we go. Now let me do back what I was doing before. Select that, that, and that. It's at median point. That's great. Go to the front view and just press S and scale it in until it's now lined up. Something like that. All right. You see that the top of the tower kind of it keeps pulling in and in and in. And now if we just look at that, there's our base for the CN tower. See at the bottom, it's that hexagonal shape. We can eliminate these if we want to, but we can keep them. It doesn't really matter. They'll be covered by the cylinder. I'll just get rid of them for now. You don't have to do this, but I'm being very specific. Great. That's our base for the CN tower. Okay, so now let's put our reference back again. Alrighty then. And one thing I'm going to do is go back to edge mode and actually just extrude this up. EZ. And just kind of extrude that maybe till about there. And to make this a bit smaller, cool trick, go to face mode, Alt and click the whole section of faces and do once again Alt E, extrude faces along normals to just shrink that down a little bit. Now we have this sort of smaller section. And the thing at the top doesn't really matter, but what we will do is get rid of this. Hold on. I don't really need this flange, so I'm going to go face mode, Alt, click it, and just delete it. Get rid of that. Perfect. Now we have the essential base part. Okay. Next is the big cylinder here, the main observatory. So to get my cursor in the right location, so that when I add the cylinder, it's in the right location, I'm going to actually Alt-click this edge loop here and get the cursor to come by pressing Shift, S, and 2. Now the cursor comes to that location, and now when I add my cylinder, it'll be approximately in the right location. So now I'm going to add a cylinder for this central part. Shift A, cylinder, and now let's change a couple settings. The cap fill type is set at N-gon, set it at nothing. So there's no actual top or bottom, as you see. That's what we want, because we're going to make the top and bottom. They're kind of special. All right, that's pretty good. We can scale it now, SZ. And I'll bring it down GZ to get it in the middle of this section here. And now I'm just going to go press S, Shift Z to scale it, but not on the Z axis. I'm just really trying to line it up with this part here. Okay, maybe a little bit bigger. SZ, maybe make it a little bit larger. Okay, that's sort of the bottom part of this hamburgery thing. All right, let's set the transformations, Control A, and go to edit mode. All right, now we're going to be basically building this whole thing up. It's going to be a lot of extruding and scaling. So we're going to extrude it up first, EZ, pull it up like that, and then when we get to that point, we're going to scale it, S, and scale it until there. It's a little bit high, GZ, just move it down a little bit. All right, now we're going to extrude that edge again, EZ, up until that point, and scale it so that it kind of matches this. Okay. So now we have to make the flat bottom. Oh, sorry, my thing is going crazy. We have to make the flat bottom of this section. So we're just going to go E and S immediately. That makes a flat plate. Now we're going to do EZ and actually just do the whole big section, and we'll do this stuff in the middle after. Okay, go up to there, maybe fix it a little bit. Whoops, GZ. Okay, now we do the same thing we did before to make the flat platform. ES, pull it out, scale it in a little bit. Okay, now that's the flat part there. EZ to there, which is kind of the place, there's like a little fence there in the real one. ES, scale it in a little bit. like that. And now let's go to the top view, scale it in a little bit more. And now we're going to press EZ and pull another section in like that. And then just E and S, and that's kind of the middle part. And that we will actually close. So once you get to about this big, M and at cursor. All right. Oh, whoops, I'm not finished. I don't know why I did that. Let's take that back. That's going to undo this stuff. Right there. I kind of jumped the gun there. EZ. I undid all that, and I'm actually starting again with this. EZ, shrink it. Okay, let me just, I'm going to have to edit this out, so I'll start with here. Okay, now we're going to make the bottom of this little... Okay, now we're going to make the bottom part there, the little flat platform, ES, scale it to like that. EZ, bring it up. ES, flat again, as you can see. And then EZ, bring it all the way up there, and then scale it in. Maybe it's a little bit high. Now this red part we're going to do after. So for now, let me just extrude all the way up. GZ, all the way up like that. Okay, now when we come to this point, this is the actual roof of the thing, and we're going to make a little sort of little fence, little platform. ES, scale a little bit in. When I do ES, it just keeps it flat. EZ to kind of an edge going down like that, and now we can do ES and make the place where people stand. And then this middle point, I'm going to merge completely M at center. All right, let's look at what we got there. Hey, we got the whole structure done. One last thing is we're going to add a couple edge loops here because there's a raised section here and underneath the windows. I'll click that, Control R, bring it down to that. And there's another little section, Control R, bring it down there. Now this one here that I only made one edge loop, that's because I'm going to bevel it. Control B, and that's going to be the thickness of this kind of section in the middle. Now I'm going to keep this selected. I'm going to press Shift, Alt, not that. I'm going to go to face mode first of all. Shift, Alt, and click the bottom section there. And now I'm going to do the same thing we did before. Alt, E, whoops. I don't know what happened there. Alt E, extrude faces along the normals to make those kind of raised ridges. There we go. Now all that's left to do is the bottom part, which is going to be kind of similar to this. Back to edge mode. Click this edge. ES to make a little lip. EZ to kind of push it up there. Let's see what I'm doing. And actually we can kind of push it up even more. GZ. And then ES, and we'll scale that in. I pressed backslash so I can go to this mode, and then we'll actually keep scaling it, and I'll merge at the center. And in fact, this entire section, I just went to face mode. I'm going to select this whole chunk, and I'm actually going to move it up a little bit. GZ. Maybe about till here, and you see that it's passing through, so I'm just going to press S and scale it in a little bit. So I'll just show you again. GZ, move it up like that. If it's passing through, it doesn't really matter. You're going to press S and scale it. There you go. Okay, so, and now we have our bottom section. Great. So that's the basis that's our basic bottom part. So before we go no further, let's make the, let's make this kind of thing that goes in the bottom, the support structure, which is kind of like a fan. And this is going to be pretty easy to do because we're going to actually use this section that we just made. So first of all, I'm going to copy it. Shift D, copy that plate, escape to snap it back into place, and then press P. And that means you're going to separate it from the rest of this model. We're actually going to make this a separate piece. Press P, click selection, and now if you look on top, we have two different cylinders. That's the plate that we just made, and that's the main part. First of all, let's rename some stuff. Main observe. That's the main observatory. The circle, I'm going to call it base. That's our hexagonal base. And this I'm going to call under. I'm just going to call it under. It's not a good name, but why not? So let's click the under part. And let's go to edit mode. Select everything. And first of all, let's move it down a little bit. GZ. Okay. You can see it's a bit too small because we scaled it in, so just press S and scale it so it's kind of, I don't want it to be cutting through, but as long as it's touching, it's fine. Okay, good. Let's now go into isolate it in backslash. Okay, so here's a cool trick. What we want to do is delete every second one of these triangles, but I don't want to do this by hand because it's tedious and boring. So what we're going to do is, you go up to select here, and you go checker deselect. This allows me to deselect and select certain, like different combinations. So it, by default, it deselects every second face or loop, whatever you're selected it to. So now it's selecting every second face. Great, I can just delete this. Press delete faces. I've deleted that, and now I have the basis for my kind of fan thing. So first of all, I have to pull this thing down, select that vertex, go back to the regular mode, and just do GZ so you can pull it down, because it kind of goes down like that. Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe I'll select the whole thing and pull it down a little bit. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Go back to isolating mode, and now here's the fun part, A, and just select all of them and just extrude the whole thing, E. Now extrude it up pretty high, because you're going to see we're going to flatten this whole part. So this is kind of weird because it slopes down. We want this to be completely flat. To do that, it's very easy. S, Z, 0. S, Z, 0 means I'm flattening it on the Z-axis. I'm basically taking my hand on the Z-axis and going plop. If I flattened it on the X-axis, I would go plop, and the Y I go plop. So it's the way of flattening things. Okay, we go back to that. Hey, there we go. There's our support structure. Cool. And you can see it's a little big, so I'm just going to select the whole thing and just shrink it a little bit. S. It was piercing through. All right, seems pretty good. Great. So a couple things to do. Select that, go to Shade Auto Smooth, and same thing with everything. Shade Auto Smooth. All right, let's keep going. Let's now go to the rest of the tower. We're going to do all the windows and stuff in the second video, but for now we're just going to build the basic structures of everything. Okay, so let us go and build, let's continue with this part of the tower, which is still the base actually. So I'm going to click my base, not my ref, I'm going to click my base, and I'm going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to just isolate it for a second. This is still highlighted, so I can press, oh no, I guess it's not. I just highlighted the top part, so we'll kind of zoom in. Okay, this cursor is a little annoying, but we'll deal with it. Okay, first thing is we're going to go back and select the top, this again. And now that I've selected that, I'm going to bring everything back, and I'm going to actually just press GZ and move it up. Move it up, 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 up. And I'm actually going to move it all the way to about the middle of the observatory. Something like that. Of the second observatory, I mean. Okay, so this is actually the kind of the basic, it continues through the roof here, and it's still the same basic shape. Now the thing is we have to add this stuff on the side. I'm going to make the reference a bit more obvious so you can kind of see it a little bit better. They are basically two cubes, a cube like that, and then the other cube sticking out of that one, sort of extruded even further. All right, so that's going to be pretty easy to do. I'll put my a little bit less. Let's go back and select our base and go into edit mode. And to do this, we first need to actually make edge loops here and here to kind of cut this section off. So to make an edge loop, I'm going to select a perpendicular edge, Control R, and I'll do that. Select that one, Control R, and I'm going to have to pull that one up. I'll have to look there. I can go GZ and just make it like a little bit higher than the base, something like that. Okay, now I have to extrude everything except for this, that, and that. Those things stay flat. So to do that, go into face mode, Alt, and click, and you basically select this whole face loop. But now, just press Shift and deselect that, that, and that. The largest faces, deselect them. Okay, now that I have that, I can do my old friend, Alt-E, extrude faces from normals. And I'll pull that up like that. maybe it's not, doesn't go very far, something like that. Okay, now go back to front mode, go back to edge mode, insert another edge loop, Control R, right underneath there. And this one, we're just going to pull out the front faces. So I'm going to select them individually. Just pressing Shift and selecting just that. And these are other sort of control things. I'm not sure what they are. I probably should have researched it, but whatever. So again, Alt-E, individual faces along, go along normals. And yeah, if you want to fix them, let's say I was doing it and it's too much or not enough, I do my same trick from before. Go to normal and then go GZ. Whoops, sorry. Individual origins, GZ. So I can push them out as much as I want. Let's say in the picture they're about to here. Yeah, like that. Okay, cool. Now let's continue and let's do the top part. Before anything, let's save. Control S. Save that as CN demo or whatever you want to call it. You can call it Bobby. All right, so now we're up here. We're going to add this next part, which is this little small observatory. And in fact, we're going to make the whole other section at the same time. Tab, and do the same trick as before. Select that top edge and bring the cursor to the top edge by doing Shift S2. And now when we add this cylinder, it will be in the right place. Get out of edit modes. Now we're in object mode. Shift A, add the cylinder, and it's the exact same settings as before, so you don't need to do anything, nothing. Press SZ to scale it way on the Z axis. Just scale it in general. It's kind of too big. I'll scale it maybe like that, and then it has to be a bit smaller because the rest of it is, yeah, something like that, so that I can pull out the bottom and top. All right, I'll set my transforms. Go to edit mode and pretty much do the same thing we did before. It's a lot of beveling and extruding and scaling. Whoop. Okay, extrude Z. Pull it up till that line and then scale it in. Extrude Z. Pull it up to that line and scale it in. Oh, GZ to move it down a little bit, like that. Okay, the bottom edge here, same thing. EZ, pull it down to, where is it? Like that. And, yeah, scale it in. A little bit more so that you don't see it anymore. Okay, so that's sort of the basic shape, but now we got to do some other stuff. Let's select this edge loop here, and actually this should go down, GZ. Maybe, actually, you know what? I was wrong. This should go up. GZ. There we go. Because this part's almost flat. In fact, this does actually go down a little bit, GZ, so that there's kind of like a little gap, like a little depression. I could actually make this a bit bigger. Because this is kind of like a fence for very brave people. Okay, so now almost finished. I have to distinguish between these windows. So I'm going to add a couple edge loops. There we go. Add that one there. I'll add that one there. I'll do the same thing I did before. No, this one in between the windows like that. And then the same thing I did before. Press Control B and, whoops, Control B and bevel it. Let me just go back there. Move that down. I press GG so I can slide it. Control B, bevel it so it's in between these two windows. You should make your opacity a little bit higher. It's hard for me to see. I know this to some extent, but it's hard to see. And great, now that's selected. I'll go to face mode. I'll press Shift and Alt, and I'll select that one, and then I'll pretty much do what I did before. Alt-E, faces along normal, so that I have this kind of little plate part. Okay, almost done. Go back to edge mode, and now I have to distinguish that there's windows on the top. So Control R, and I'll just put them up to the windows. Let me actually go to object mode for a second. Go to the reference here and just turn it up so I can see what I'm actually doing. That's better. Okay. I can see a little bit more. Okay, so this whole section is going to be windows, as is this section. So in fact, this chunk here should move up. I'm going to select that whole chunk. I'm going to go Control plus, which selects not just the chunk, but the top and bottom of it. And just GZ. Oh, whoops, still on normals. If you didn't mess it up like I did, you probably could just keep it like it was. I'm just moving it up a little bit, GZ. And it's important that what I did is I selected not just the front face, but this ring and that ring. If I had not done that, I would have only moved that up. And I'll show you what it would have looked like if I had forgotten to do that. Let's say I just selected that, and I wrote GZ. See what's happening? It's only pulling that, but the rest of it's not going with it. So that's not what I wanted. I wanted the whole ring. So what I did is I pressed Control plus, which selected one more ring. And now if I press GZ, the whole thing moves. And I'm just trying to get it into the right positions or something like that. All right. And maybe just for fun, I will actually select, whoops, this edge and bevel it because it's pretty harsh. That makes it look a little bit better. Okay. That's the basics of it. All right, now let's get back to making the rest of the tower, which is going to be very, very easy. I'm in still in edge mode. I selected that top edge. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm just going to make the rest of these sections. EZ, do, 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 do. EZ, just till there, scale it. EZ, just to the red. EZ, whoop. EZ. Same thing we did before now. EZ up, whoop, sorry about that. EZ up until there and scale it. EZ to the red part. Another EZ for the world. EZ, yeah, I'm almost there. Looks like a lipstick. EZ up till there. And ES, because now this part is kind of flat. GZ, move that up a little bit. A little bit smaller than that. Actually, this whole part should be a bit smaller. Scale. Okay. Now I'm at the top of my lipstick. I'll select that edge. EZ, once again. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, one thing is that, let's say that I didn't pull it up high enough. I would not go to do another EZ. I don't need to do that. I just need to just move it. So I just go GZ. So when I messed it up, I didn't extrude another loop. I just pressed GZ. Scale that down. Okay, we're almost done. We're so almost done. All right, let's just finish up the top. ES. And now I'll move this a little bit up. GZ. Like that. And I'll do, why not EZ? Scale it. And I didn't like what I just did there, so I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to do ES. Do like that. Merge it at the center. And select that part. Just that. Just the middle vertex, and just go GZ and move it like that so it's more even. Kind of a little point. I think we have gotten the basic shape. Let us see. We have, better smooth that, auto smooth. We have gotten the basic shapes of this CN tower. One last thing to do is put the actual base in, which is going to take 3 seconds. Let's actually move the cursor back to the world origin. Shift S1. And we will add a cylinder. Control A, mesh, cylinder. And in this case, let's put a cap on it because it doesn't have a top and bottom, and we were lazy, so we want to do it ourselves. Put a triangle fan. That's always nice. And let's scale this on the Z-axis because it's way too thick. Put this on. GZ, and it's a bit bigger, maybe something like that. GZ. Now it's still a bit too tall, so SZ. And just make sure that it overlaps slightly on the bottom so that you don't, there you go. And of course, shade auto smooth. All right, there we go. We have actually done the whole basis of this CN tower. And then the next video, we're going to do the details and a little bit of materials. I hope you enjoyed this. Let's save, drink some juice. Bye-bye.